You know, there's no shortage of opinions when it comes to the greatest male rock singer of all time, the GOAT. You know, critics, fans, and forums, they've all debated it endlessly. And while I don't necessarily disagree with the usual names, you know, Robert Plant, Freddie Mercury, and so forth, there are some incredible voices that rarely get the recognition they deserve. You know, they're never mentioned in the same breath. So on this episode, I'm shining a light on those unsung heroes. Vocalists who should absolutely be in the conversation for the greatest ever. And there's some real surprises on here I think you'll like, including one raspy rocker who was so poetic he could make a seedy stripper seem like a goddess. And another rocker who had such a talent at his peak that his 1986 hit with his new band was so grand it felt like he was just showing off. And then there's a man who's one of the greatest guitarists ever and really the secondary singer in his band, but his melancholy performance on a 1975 song was so sensational, it's become the greatest album cut in history. Man, so many great vocalists, and the stories are coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you ever talked yourself into buying Cracked magazine because Matt only came out 8 times a year, and you were missing it, you're going to dig his channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the white button and click the bell so you always know when stuff comes out. I always told myself I'm not buying Cracked, it's not as good as Mad, and then I would finally, you know, the money would burn a hole in my pocket and I'd do it. Oh, make sure to check out professorofrock.com because we have some really cool live streams coming up that you're going to want to sign up for, and some special guests that only you'll know if you're signed up. I've got a good episode today. This countdown isn't about charts or sales or stats. There's no formula here. It's just about that indescribable feeling you get the moment that these 10 singers step up to the mic and let their glorious voices just soar. I mean, when we talk about the greatest male singers in rock history, we always talk about the same names. There's Robert Plant, Freddie Mercury, and Steve Perry, and Paul Rodgers, and Bon Scott, and Roger Daltrey, and Lennon McCartney, and I even hear Brad Delp more and more. And these guys are all more than worthy of that distinction. But today, I have a list of 10 male singers that don't get mentioned a lot in these conversations, though they're amazing in their own right. Don't get me wrong, these artists are all famous. They just don't get the recognition they truly deserve as vocalists in that conversation. But I'm here to change that and give the spotlight to them and also mention one song that highlights their magic. All right, let's get started. Coming in at number 10, I have the king of the rasp, one of the most distinct voices in American rock, Mr. Bob Seger. Bob doesn't get nearly enough credit as a singer, as a vocalist. I mean, his songwriting is rich, it's engaging, and his repertoire of great songs is just so deep. But it's his voice that makes him such a compelling artist. That raspy, whiskey-soaked baritone of his, it isn't just cool, it's packed with emotion and grit.
The ashes smolder, but the warmth soon gone.
He's got this way of swinging that oozes swagger and confidence, especially when he's telling stories about working class life in the heartland. Bob has a real gift for blending, you know, melody with that rugged tone, creating a sound that's unmistakably his. As a vocalist, Bob is one of the most authentic and powerful of the rock era, no doubt. And he really showcases his vocal versatility in We've Got Tonight.
We've got tonight.
Now, Bob wrote We've Got Tonight and released it as his third single from the Seager and Silver Bullet Band LP Stranger in Town from 1978.
Why don't you stay?
So the story goes, late one night, Bob was watching The Sting, you know, that classic film with Robert Redford and Paul Newman.
For 10 years. That's why he won't know it.
Now he's ready for the Sting.
There's this quiet little scene that most people probably wouldn't think twice about, you know. It's where Redford's character is hitting on a waitress, and she pushes back saying, I don't even know you. But Redford, cool as ever, just looks at her and says, you know me, I'm the same as you. It's 2 a.m, and I don't know nobody.
I'm just like you. It's 2 a.m, and I don't know nobody.
That scene really stuck with Bob, kept rolling around in his head. And the very next day, he sat down and wrote We've Got Tonight. It's a song about 2 lonely people who know deep down that they're not right for each other, but for this one night, in this one moment, they're all that each other's got. I know it's late. I know your plans don't include me. Still, here we are, both of us lonely. We got tonight, so why don't you stay?
Both of us lonely.
Great song. Showcases Bob's voice so well. What I love about his performance on this is the tenderness. He can belt out a vocal like few others, but the sensitivity and, the honesty that he projects in this performance, it's so endearing. There aren't many artists that have that incredible skill.
Girl, look at the stars.
We've Got Tonight should have been a much bigger hit, but it had a respectable number 9 finish in Canada, and it did peak at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100, but I think it should have been at least a top 5 hit.
Why don't you stay?
Now, another quick mention for Bob Seger here is his performance in the song Main Street. Now, the song is semi-autobiographical. Young Seager, at the time he was 12 or 13, walking around Ann Arbor, Michigan after midnight, looking in the windows as a blues band played and a beautiful girl danced in the window.
Down on Main Street.
Now, at first it seems the places that Bob is singing about are, a bit seedy, dangerous even. The pool hall with the hustlers and the losers and the dancers, and it might be strippers. That's the impression you get.
Love to watch her do her stuff.
But in his retelling, it was the music that awakened him. Anyway, Bob Seger could make that sound as romantic as a verse from John Keats or William Wordsworth. That's how great he is.
Down on Main Street.
Coming in at number 9 is a guy that blows me away every time I hear him. Talking about the incomparable and underrated Burton Cummings.
No time for a summer friend.
Now, there are 2 songs that bring out his distinction as one of the most talented vocalists and underappreciated. First one I want to spotlight is his performance on No Time from his days as the frontman of the Guess Who. I'm speaking of the re-recorded version of No Time that was included on the American Woman album. That modified recording was done at a slightly faster tempo and the 2 verses are transposed. It became the definitive hit version of the song for sure. I love the way that Burton's vocals build with the journey of the song. With Burton singing about being on his way to a better place and getting rid of everything that is causing him anguish. And then at the song's breakdown, when he defiantly declares he's got no time left for his ex-lover, which is the main source of his pain. Just a great song. It was like a Dear John letter. Randy Bachman's guitar riff and Burton's inspired vocals just make this song a classic. Back in 1969, it rose to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. My favorite Guess Who song. Also went number 1 in Canada for him. Now, the second song that manifests the underappreciated majesty of Burton Cummings is his debut solo single, Stand Tall.
Stand tall, don't you fall.
Right after Burton Cummings left the Guess Who, to go solo, his world started to unravel in a way he never expected. It wasn't just the pressure of starting over, it was heartbreak. His girlfriend of 9 years had just left him for somebody else, and the emotional crash hit him like a freight train. He'd never felt anything like this before. In the middle of all that pain and confusion, though, Burton sat down at his old piano, not with a plan, just to let it all out.
Never been this blue.
The frustration, the sadness, the heartbreak, the questions that had no answers, they all poured out through his fingers. Stand Tall was the lifeline, a way to pick himself up when everything felt like it was falling apart. Truly a vocal masterpiece by Burton.
It's silly human right.
Stand Tall was the first of 2 solo hits for Burton Cummings. It climbed to number 4 in Canada and was a top 10 here on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1977.
For God's sake, don't go do something foolish.
Right, at number 8 on our countdown of the top 10 most underappreciated vocalists, it's a guy who brought true elegance to prog rock. It's the amazing, the sensational John Anderson. John Anderson reigns supreme as a progressive rock vocalist and has delivered countless performances that are magnificent. But the track that I chose that really demonstrates his greatness is Going for the One. Going for the One is a secret weapon to psych yourself up for a big challenge and, attacking with everything that you've got. And John's stirring vocal gives the song the gusto that evokes the courage and resilience to get the W, if you will. After seeing all your sense of fear diminish as you treat danger as pure collection, as you throw away misconception, I love it. What makes John Anderson such a standout vocalist is that incredible alto tenor range of his. He's got the rare ability to move effortlessly between low and high notes, giving his voice a kind of a otherworldly quality that's instantly recognizable. It's not just his range, though. It's the way he uses that range. I mean, there's a purity and clarity in his tone that cuts through everything. It just floats above the music like a beam of light. That's what makes his voice so distinctive. It doesn't just sing the notes. It lifts the entire song into another dimension, particularly in Going for the One. And Going for the One was the title track for the 8th studio album by Yes, although Yes had a #1 pop single in America with their big comeback hit Only for Lonely Heart. They weren't known for, releasing singles per se. Going for the One achieved moderate success in the UK, though, at number 24 and number 16 in Ireland. So onward with our countdown to the top 10 most underappreciated vocalists. At number 7, I've got the Red Rocker, Mr. Sammy Hagar. When one thinks of Sammy Hagar, they often think of his rock bravado. In many ways, he is the quintessential rock vocalist. I always believed that he deserved more acclaim for his performance on Dreams, when he was with Van Halen. On Dreams, Sammy straight up shows off. This song's no joke. It's seriously tough to sing with those soaring high notes and the insane level of energy that it demands. It's hard to sing along to. You can't hit the notes. But Sammy doesn't even flinch. He brings this crazy range and just holds that intensity like it's nothing. It's one of those performances that really proves how powerful his voice is or was at his peak. Dreams is a beast, and Sammy tackles it head on like a total badass. Dreams by Van Halen with Sammy at the helm was the second single off the 5150 album, one of my favorite songs ever. It was a mainstay at rock radio, climbing to number 6 on the Rock Tracks chart, and it went to number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100, and show why the Red Rocker is the man. All right, coming in number 6 on my list is a legendary frontman that made Southern rock a household name. Of course, I'm talking about Leonard Skinner, the late, great Ronnie Van Zant.
Mr. Breeze.
What made Ronnie Van Zant such a special vocalist, it really shines in the live version of Freebird. You can feel the electricity. His voice isn't just carrying the song, it's feeding off the energy of the crowd and throwing it right back. There's this raw, unfiltered emotion in his delivery that hits even harder in a live setting. Add in those epic extended guitar solos and the longer runtime, and it gives Ronnie the space to really stretch out and let it all pour out. It's powerful, it's moving, and it shows exactly why he was the heart and soul of Southern rock. Ronnie Van Zant's vocals weren't about showing off range or hitting every note perfectly. They were all about feeling. What made him so memorable wasn't technical flash per se. It was the way he could pour emotion into every word and make you believe every line that he sang. His voice had this real raw quality that connected with people in such a big way. think about it, that honesty in his delivery, that is the reason of why Lynyrd Skynyrd's music was so foundational. It felt real because Ronnie made it real. Freebird started his flight with a nearly forgotten Alan Collins chord sequence, and when Alan played the riff while he was just messing around at a rehearsal, Ronnie Van Zant stopped what he was doing and asked him, "Hey, play that again." And then Ronnie remarkably wrote out the extended melody and lyrics for the song in like 5 minutes. Freebird was a hit as a studio version. It went to number 19 in 74. The second time with the live recording, it peaked at number 37 in 76. So rambling on with the countdown here, I've got one of the purest guitarists of the rock era, one of my favorites. And he was really the secondary vocalist in his band. But I have to say his voice is as mesmerizing as his guitar playing. Halfway through the countdown at number 5, I'm going with David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. I could go on forever about how underrated David Gilmour is as a vocalist. I mean, seriously, calling him underappreciated doesn't even scratch the surface. Everybody talks about his guitar work, and yeah, it's extraordinary, no doubt. But his vocals are just as powerful, in a quiet, soul-stirring kind of way, right?
Our weary eyes still stray to the horizon.
If there's one performance that really deserves the spotlight for Gilmour, it's gotta be Wish You Were Here.
How I wish you were here.
His delivery on that minimalist track is so honest and full of longing. It's subtle, like a heartfelt country or folk song. It cuts deep, though. It's the kind of vocal that stays with you long after the song's over.
Heaven from hell.
A wounded baritone, a relatable tone, and a nuanced delivery that conveys the song's melancholic and reflective nature that is all David Gilmour. It might as well have been a cappella, because he makes Wish You Were Here an epic track with just a little bit of accompaniment.
Have we found the same old fears?
Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here was not a single from the album of the same name. Instead, it became one of the most celebrated album cuts of the rock era. And I would say because of David Gilmour's vocal and the opening line and the opening guitar part, I think it's the greatest album cut in rock history, for my money.
So you think you could tell?
Coming in hot at number 4 in this countdown is a man who could split the atom with the force of his gritty voice. Telling you, talking about the voice of the CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Mr. John Fogerty.
We're going up around the bend.
John Fogerty might be one of the most underrated vocalists in rock history. He might be the most underrated. Certainly a matter of perspective. I mean, sure, he's widely respected and his voice is instantly recognizable. But when it comes to conversations about the all-time greats, man, he's overlooked all the time. That gravelly growl, the raw power of his voice, the emotion. I mean, Fogerty was the sound of CCR and the sound of an entire generation. The fact that he pulled off so much as basically a one-man engine behind the music makes his vocal talent even more impressive. Now, I'm focusing the Fogerty genius on Fortunate Son. Seriously, is there anyone who can deliver a stick-it-to-the-man vocal that hits harder than this and still connects with the masses better than John Fogerty? That's exactly what he pulled off with Fortunate Son. His delivery was full of contempt and defiance, but somehow it wasn't polarizing. It struck a chord with just about everybody. I mean, with just a few verses, John Fogerty calls out privilege, inequality, and the hypocrisy of the draft during the Vietnam War, all wrapped in a driving, no-nonsense rock groove. I mean, it's a perfect song. And here's the thing, it's not preachy, it's just brutally honest. And that unmistakable riff, paired with Fogerty's fiery vocal, It gives the song a timeless energy that still hits just as hard today as it did in 1969. It's a rock protest song that doesn't come off like a sermon from a pulpit at all. It comes off as a fist-pumping, sing-along, middle finger against the man. John Fogerty and CCR took Fortunate Son all the way to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in December of '69. Continuing with the countdown of my top 10 most underappreciated vocalists, I've got the metal god, Mr. Rob Halford, at number 3. As the frontman for Judas Priest since 1973, Rob Halford was one of the first to bring that full-on operatic style to metal and totally own it. Maybe one reason he doesn't always get the credit he deserves is Rob himself. Even though he's been a massive influence on generations of rock and metal singers, he's admitted he's not super comfortable hearing his own voice or soaking up praise. Humility's cool, but some people take it as him downplaying just how powerful and groundbreaking his vocals really are. I mean, to my ears, it's Rob's performance on Breaking the Law that deserves a lot of acclaim. I chose Rob's execution in Breaking the Law because on that track, he doesn't necessarily go full high-pitched scream mode like on some of Judas Priest's other songs. Instead, he gives it this raw, dangerous tone, as if you're walking down a dark street in complete fear of what's going to happen around the corner. There's that simmering anger in his voice, like he's fed up, but totally in control, you know what I mean? Which fits the song's rebellious theme perfectly. It's that balance of restraint and power that makes his delivery so effective. He's a guy who's been pushed too far, and now he's taking matters into his own hands. The highlight for me Breaking the Law is when Rob screams in utter exasperation, "You don't know what it's like," followed by the sound effect of a police car siren racing into the main guitar riff. You don't know what it's like. Breaking the Law by Judas Priest from their British Still album didn't chart in the US, but it pushed its way to number 19 in Ireland, nearly broke the top 10 in the UK, cresting at number 12 back in 1980. Another track that I love, Rob Halford with Judas Priest, is Prisoner of Your Eyes. I mean, his vocal on that is just mind-blowing. Again, I can't say enough about him. By the way, these are not necessarily in order. More on that in just a second, but I put this together pretty quickly because I've been down. The other day I was eating and I broke a wisdom tooth. It was so painful. I actually had to have emergency surgery and they pulled all 4 of my wisdom teeth and been in a lot of pain. This was only 2 days ago that this happened and a lot of swelling. And so I probably don't sound as clear as I usually do. So I'm doing my best. So bear with me. But at the number 2 position on our countdown of the top 10 most underappreciated vocalists, I'm going with the Piano Man. I know I'll get some pushback on this one. Sing us a song, you're the Piano Man. Because Billy Joel is a melodicist, that's what they call him. So great with melody and a showman and does so many different things well. He doesn't really get credit as a rock vocalist. He's never gotten the credit as a performer, as a vocalist. He's one of the all-time greatest. I'm a huge Billy Joel fan, as you know, so I can go really deep into his catalog. So for my pick for this one, that just shows his incredible rock vocal, is for his Tough as Nails performance on the song Laura from his brilliant Nylon Curtain album, tied with 2 other albums from my favorite album of all time. Laura calls me. This song is a pure mid-period Beatles fest, with Billy going in and out of John Lennon and Paul McCartney's vocal exercises against a George Harrison-like guitar solo. Careless fingers, they get caught in her face. Man, make no mistake, the vocal is all Billy Joel, simmering with utter contempt and confession. Billy has admitted that he wrote it about his mom. It's a more complex and metaphorical portrayal of a relationship that is both supportive while being emotionally taxing. While the song is about a woman who can be a source of strength, the same woman causes emotional strife and a pretty big guilt trip that has Billy dropping a snarling F-bomb and some vicious one-liners that show off his vocal wizardry. The man can do anything with his voice, from the passion of a song like An Innocent Man to the smooth doo-wop of For the Longest Time, to the cutthroat anger of Angry Young Man and I Go to Extremes, to the subtle melancholy of And So It Goes and Where's the Orchestra. Man, go listen to those last two if you disagree with me, and I promise you'll agree.
It goes and so it goes. There's the orchestra.
Maybe the reason that Billy Joel doesn't get the credit he deserves as a lyricist, as a vocalist, as a performer against all the others is because when we look at Billy Joel, we just see ourselves. I mean, really, he is the everyman, and that's why his music has been such a treasure to all of us. This has been really fun, a really thought-provoking countdown because there's so much subjectivity to it. I mean, everybody's going to have a different feeling about who their favorite is. It's going to bring out a lot of passion and emotion in the comment section below for sure. Truth is, none of these are truly in order, like I said. I guess you could say I go from the lesser underappreciated to the absolute underappreciated from 10 to 1. But closing out our countdown of the top 10 most underappreciated vocalists is a singer who has given us some of the most distinguished performances of the rock era as a member of the Police and as a solo artist. And number 1, I've got Gordon Sumner, Sting.
Upon the fields of folly, baby, please.
Of all the exceptional Sting achievements, as a solo artist and the lead singer of the Police, I gotta go with his performance on Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic as his very best. Sting's vocal on Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic has a magical quality of its own. I know, I'm using magic again here. But it blends warmth and subtlety and just the right amount of edge. As he sings, there's an almost palpable transformation in his tone, starting with a hint of despair, but then gradually lifting into something much brighter. It's the kind of voice that instantly draws you in, effortlessly shifting through emotions and taking you on this huge. What makes Sting's performance so remarkable is how it captures the essence of the song's heartache, while still delivering the uplifting message that it ultimately carries. You can't help but feel the weight of each word in the song. You walk away with a sense of hope in the end, in spite of him using a big enough umbrella that still doesn't shield him from the rain. Asked me to play one song by Sting to demonstrate what an incredible, distinctive singer he is. I gotta play him Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. It's quintessential Sting, and all the qualities that make him such a unique stylist. Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic was the second single from the Police's Ghost in the Machine album. It's a monster hit. It cracked the top 5 in virtually every country. It's one of the most played songs of all time. It shot to number 1 in Canada, the UK, and Ireland. In America, it was number 1 on the mainstream rock chart. Went to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Should have been a number 1. So the question is, why isn't Sting more appreciated as a vocalist? And that's a great question. I've asked that question a lot of times. Sting has described himself as an orchestrator. He doesn't think he was really a singer, and maybe that's why he isn't in those all-time best conversations. Solo material, Sting has an intoxicating blend of romanticism, elegance, and introspection that few artists can capture. And then on his performances with the Police, he's got this, punk ferocity and an edginess that I don't think anyone really can come close to. He's so dynamic. He's so widespread. He can do anything. And just like Billy Joel. That's probably why they don't get the credit, because they're more stylistic. But it's been fun to reminisce about these, and those are the reasons why I feel Sting is the most underappreciated vocalist, probably, of all of the ones that I've talked about. Now, I focused on male rock singers, which is why Brian Wilson, Dan Fogelberg, Roy Orbison, and others were missing. I got to do a top 10 greatest overall singers ever in the history of pop music. My pick might be Frank Sinatra. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever topped Frank, but that's just my take. What do you think? What is your opinion? What are your memories of these songs, of these vocalists? What's your top 10 underappreciated vocalists? I didn't put Lou Gramm or Brad Delp or Steve Perry in there, because to me, they are in that conversation. I've heard them a lot more, at least lately. Paul Rodgers a lot. I don't hear a lot of these. One that I left out, I got to throw an honorable mention out to David Lee Roth, because David Lee Roth, there's an energy to his voice. It's so great. And I know that he took a lot of beatings, there at the end with Van Halen, because his voice wasn't up to par. But man, I think David Lee Roth, Running with the Devil, 1978, that was a guy making rock and roll sound dangerous again. And that's pretty badass. Those are my picks. What are your picks? Let me know below. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.